Most families spend their entire 30s working hard and going nowhere financially. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because they're focused on the wrong targets. There are 5 specific milestones that actually change the trajectory. And most personal finance content never talks about them in a way that makes sense for families with kids, a mortgage, and a real life to manage. If you hit these 5 before 40, retirement largely takes care of itself. If you don't, you'll spend your 40s and 50s playing catch up. This video is about making sure that doesn't happen to your family. And if you're new here, this is Minivan Millionaire Plan. We cover real practical wealth building for everyday families across North America. Hit subscribe before we dive in because there's a lot more coming that I think you're going to find useful. Let's get into it. Milestone 1, the Real Family Emergency Fund. You've probably heard the advice before. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Put it somewhere accessible? Done. But here's where most families get this wrong. They calculate their emergency fund based on a vague sense of what they spend, not what their family actually costs to run every single month. So let me give you a more useful way to think about this. Sit down and add up your real monthly family number. Mortgage or rent, groceries. The real number, not what you wish you spent. Utilities, childcare if you have it, car payments and insurance, kids' activities, phone bills, minimum debt payments, everything that has to get paid, whether you're employed or not. For a lot of North American families with kids, that number is somewhere between $4,500 and $7,000 per month, which means a real 6-month family emergency fund is $27,000 to $42,000 sitting in a high interest savings account. That's not a small number. But here's why it matters so much before 40 specifically. Your 30s are statistically the decade when life throws the most expensive surprises at you at once. Job loss, a health issue, a car that dies, a roof that needs replacing. Families without a real emergency fund in their 30s don't just face stress, they go into debt. And that debt sets back every other financial goal by years. The milestone isn't just having some savings, it's having enough that a genuine emergency doesn't derail your entire financial plan. If you're not there yet, start with 1 month, then 2. Build it slowly and deliberately. But make this the first thing you protect before anything else. Milestone 2, debt that works for you, not against you. Here's a reframe that changes how most families think about debt. Not all debt is the same. There is debt that costs you wealth and debt that builds it. And the milestone before 40 isn't eliminating all debt. It's reaching a point where every dollar of debt you're carrying is working for you, not against you. Debt that destroys wealth has a high interest rate and no asset behind it. Credit cards at 19%. Buy now, pay later balances. Lines of credit used for vacations or furniture. Every dollar you owe on these is actively shrinking your net worth every single day. This debt has no redeeming quality. It needs to go. Debt that builds wealth is low interest and attached to an appreciating asset. Your mortgage is the clearest example. You're paying interest, yes, but you're also building equity in an asset that historically grows in value over time. A reasonable car loan that gets you to work is another example. Student loans at a low fixed rate can fall into this category too. The milestone is this. Before you turn 40, your debt picture should look like this. 0 high interest consumer debt. And any remaining debt is low interest attached to an asset and a manageable percentage of your income. A simple rule of thumb on that last point. Your total debt payments, mortgage, car, any remaining loans, should not exceed 40% of your gross household income. If you're above that, something needs to change. If you're below it and carrying only low interest debt, you're in a healthy position and you can redirect energy toward building wealth rather than digging out. Milestone 3, your first $50,000 invested. There's a famous idea in personal finance that the first $100,000 is the hardest. And it's true, not just psychologically, but mathematically. Here's why. At $10,000 invested, a 7% return adds $700 to your balance. That feels small. At $50,000, that same 7% return adds $3,500. At $100,000, it adds $7,000 without you doing anything. That's when compounding starts to feel real. So the milestone I want you to aim for before 40 is your first $50,000 in invested assets. Not home equity, not savings. Actual invested money in tax-sheltered accounts, your RRSP or TFSA in Canada, your 401k or Roth IRA in the US, in a diversified low-cost portfolio. $50,000 is the halfway point to where compounding becomes genuinely exciting. And for a family that starts contributing consistently in their late 20s or early 30s, hitting $50,000 by 40 is absolutely achievable, even on a middle-class income. Here's what that looks like in practice. If you invest $500 per month starting at age 28 and earn 7% annually, you'll have roughly $75,000 by the time you're 40. You've crossed the milestone with room to spare. And once you're at $50,000, the math starts doing some of the heavy lifting for you. That's the shift that makes the second $50,000 come faster than the first. Milestone 4, the automatic money system. This one isn't a number, it's a habit. And it might be the most important milestone on this entire list because it's the one that makes everything else sustainable. The milestone is building a system where money moves to the right place before you can spend it, automatically, without any willpower or decision-making required. Here's what that looks like in practice. The day your paycheck hits your account, money moves. A set amount goes straight to your RRSP or 401k. A set amount goes to your TFSA or Roth IRA. A set amount goes to your emergency fund if you're still building it. A set amount goes toward debt repayment if you're still paying things down. What's left is what you live on, not the other way around. Most families do this backwards. They spend through the month and try to save whatever is left. There's almost never anything left. The automatic system flips that equation permanently. The reason this is a milestone before 40 specifically is that the families who build this habit in their 30s are the ones who arrive at 50 with real wealth, not because they earned more or were smarter, but because the system ran quietly in the background for 20 years without requiring any heroics. You don't need a big income to make this work. You need consistency. Even $300 per month invested automatically from age 32 to age 65 at 7% return becomes $370,000. And if $1 million invested by 65 is your goal, which by the way is exactly what Minivan Millionaire Plan is built around, you need to automate around $810 per month from age 32 at that same 7% return. For a family earning $80,000 to $90,000 a year, that's roughly 10% of gross income going to work automatically every single month. Not a heroic number, not a sacrifice that wrecks your lifestyle, just a system running quietly in the background, turning an ordinary income into an extraordinary outcome over time. The automation is what makes the consistency possible. Set it up this weekend, even if the amounts are small to start. The habit is the milestone. Milestone 5, the retirement clarity moment. This is the milestone no other personal finance channel talks about for families in their 30s. And it might be the one that changes everything. The milestone isn't a number, it's a decision. It's the moment you actually sit down with your partner or on your own if you're doing this solo and define what retirement actually looks like for your family. Not vaguely, specifically. What age do you want to start working full time? What does a good retirement week actually look like for you? Where do you want to live? What are you spending? What matters to you in that chapter of life? Most families in their 30s are saving toward a retirement they've never actually defined. They're just putting money away because they know they're supposed to point it at some distant, fuzzy future. That vagueness is expensive because without a clear target, you can't know if you're on track. You can't make smart trade-offs. You can't feel the progress. When you define retirement clearly, I want to retire at 62. I want $55,000 a year in today's dollars. I want to stay in my home and travel twice a year. Everything else gets easier. You can calculate your actual FIRE number. You can factor in CPP and Social Security. You can look at what you have invested today and know with real clarity whether you're ahead, on track, or behind. That clarity is worth more than almost any financial tactic because it turns wealth building from a vague, anxious obligation into a specific, motivating project with a finish line you can actually see. Do this before 40. Block a Sunday afternoon. Make coffee. Sit down and answer those questions honestly. Write the numbers down. That conversation is one of the most valuable financial things you will ever do for your family. Here's the thing about these 5 milestones. None of them require a high income. None of them require perfection. What they require is intention, making a few deliberate decisions in your 30s that your future self will be genuinely grateful for. A real emergency fund that protects everything you're building. Debt that works for you instead of against you. Your first $50,000 invested where compounding can start doing the work. An automatic system that makes saving effortless. And the clarity of knowing exactly what you're building toward and why. Hit those 5 before 40. And you don't just survive your financial life, you win it. If this kind of honest, practical approach to family wealth building is what you've been looking for, this is Minivan Millionaire Plan, built for parents who want to do better with money without turning their whole life into a spreadsheet. Subscribe if you haven't already and drop a comment below. Which of these 5 are you closest to hitting right now?